uh, welcome back to Comic Book Wednesdays, our weekly series where we talk about comic books. We're your hosts. I'm Ian.
I'm Al.
And I'm Shane.
We're back with another issue of Star Wars comics. We're doing Dark Force Rises, the beginning of the second book of the Thrawn trilogy. Guys, I'm gonna say it now, just get it off my chest. I still don't like this graphic novel. The art is a lot better in this series, but yeah, no, I'm not loving it.
I didn't mind this set of books. I thought it was pretty good, honestly.
Now
But
you say pretty good, and I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. Try to bring me to you. Why?
I really, I don't know. I felt like it was a little bit more in depth than the first set, Heir to the Empire stuff. It just didn't. I mean, it still's not my favorite, but I feel like the book was definitely a lot better, or this comic was definitely a lot better.
You had a little bit more going for it. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it did.
I don't know. What do you think, Shane? Are you more on Al or more with me on this?
I honestly thought it was a little hard to follow. Like, I did think the art was better. I'll definitely agree to that. There was just some points where, like, it felt difficult to me. I don't know why, but, like, some elements of the story just didn't click. I felt like at times it was kind of dragging on a little bit with where it needed to go. Now, granted, there was some parts I really did enjoy, like especially Luke's interaction with the Jedi Master in that last chapter. I really did think that was kind of cool. Really shows how unhinged he is, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I kind of felt like it was a little hard to follow, and I'm hoping it like brings me back into it. I'm remaining hopeful.
In my opinion, and I think the hard to follow comes from it just trying to be translated into a graphic novel form. It just where this is okay. I'll give you credit. Of this is a little bit more in depth than Heir to the Empire was. But how much of that is just because Dark Forces Rises has a lot more meat to it?
That's part of it, I'm sure. I don't know. I just felt like it was better. I don't know.
It's fair. And,
Well, Al, was there certain parts of it that, like, aside from the artwork, because we all agree that that's, better, but were there any, like, certain parts of it that you felt did better than the first set of 3 that we read?
I enjoyed the interaction between Mara and Curdle, or Curdell, a lot more. I don't really have a good reason to why I feel like it was better. I just did.
Yeah, it's all good.
Like I said, I'm not saying it was great by any means. I just enjoyed it more for some reason this time.
Hey, that's fair.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You really enjoy Dark Force Rising. Like, isn't that one of your favorite books out of the trilogy?
I mean, all 3 of them are fantastic books in my opinion. They're probably some of the best books out of the entire universe, in my opinion. And Dark Force Rising was good. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed it. I know you said you had problems with it because it was slower moving, but you get a lot of more information from that book than you realize when you continue to read the novels. As far as like with the Naragi and how their relationship with Leia turns, and it's the book does a much better job talking about that than this graphic novel does. But I just enjoyed the novel a little bit more, I guess, this time because of the art and the detail I got from that stuff.
It's That's absolutely fair. And you know, what, going back into the graphic novel, I mean, meeting General Iblis, is that how you say his name?
Yeah,
He's a
Garm.
cool character.
He's a very cool character.
So it was cool to see him again, and then and I forgot that you really you get a lot of him in this book. Is where you meet him. Um, so I like that. I love all the Sabath stuff. Like Shane was talking about, we see Sabath being unhinged, electrocuting people that he has deemed that he is he's the what, a judge, jury, and executioner for these people.
I also thought
And
that was an interesting. Go ahead, Ian. Sorry. My bad.
No, it's fascinating. You know what I mean? Like just seeing all that and seeing how Luke interacts with him. And then I think about my knowledge that I have now in canon Star Wars, where there's a lot more Jedi information fleshed out. Where at the time that
Mm-hmm.
these books were being written, that information wasn't necessarily there yet. Um, so to see how Zahn was writing the Jedi lore, and even though Sabath was a little crazy, you still get pieces of that, and I find that absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, you get a lot more Thrawn in this book too, um,
Mm-hmm.
and you see more of the way he thinks, which is, I think, perfect. And Shane, you were going to say something, so before I get too far off, what were you going to say?
No, it's all good. I just I got excited because this is one of the things I had taken notes on. It was a really nice parallel between the way Luke handled that a Jedi interaction with like solving a dispute to the way that Master did. Because the way Luke did it was just like, okay, well let's find a diplomatic solution here. And they talked. He made them put away their weapons, and then it got to a point where I think he said like, okay, well, hey, I know you're trying to fight against this deal, but this is the best deal you're going to get. And the guy was like, okay, I accept judgment. And then it just ended. And like
And
with
then he
this
also
guy,
gave the, but you are going to have to pay for whatever it is he destroyed, the droid, right?
yeah,
So it was, I liked that you're saying, because he got the full, everything's even. Sorry to interrupt
yeah.
you, but
No, it's a good addition. It was very diplomatic. Everything was even. And then, we see how this guy handles everything, and it's very much oh, well, I'm my word is law, like Ian said, judge,
yeah,
jury, and executioner, which I thought was just kind of fucked.
Oh,
But also
absolutely.
like shows how unhinged he is.
oh
And
yeah,
he's just, and even Luke was just like, I don't think he's a dark Jedi. I think he's just gone.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
His brain isn't there.
Well, then they talk about that with the, what was it, the outbound flight mission.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that it was kind of like, like all of the Jedi kind of, like, that were with him attached to him, and all the voices inside just kind of drove him crazy, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it. Let me just kind of pull it up here. There's one specific thing that like, well, yeah, the one image that I saved was him just absolutely electrocuting somebody. Even Luke was just like, what are you doing? And he's just like, you're not the master.
Oh yeah, he's very much
Yeah.
like Luke. Get in your fucking place. Like
Yeah,
if he could, he would pimp slap you. Just give him
Yep.
the old backhand.
The old
Um,
Sabath backhand.
oh yeah, you got Joris Sabah. Bang! Um, no character we haven't talked about yet. We didn't really touch on Mara too much. So we're starting to slowly see her get her force abilities, and she's not that she didn't have them already, but like she's like remembering how to do them. You know, coming out
Yeah.
of this trauma. Um, sh- how do you feel about Mara Jade so far, Shane? Because Al and I are on the same page. And I just really want to know what you think.
I do think it's interesting that, like, even her boss as of right now is like, oh, well, you got like these Jedi abilities. Did you get trained? Like, he's trying to get info from her, and she just doesn't want to talk about it, which, like, I can't really blame her. Um, but what is kind of interesting for me is that she is taking this stance of, like, trying to use her force abilities without a teacher, and her absolute hatred of Luke Skywalker, and yet even in that moment when the two of them were in the woods, even Luke was just like, "Look, I understand why you hate me, but you're kind of overreacting a little bit." In the
Yeah,
previous issues, and like in this, it's nice to see her, like, her personality is not focused on that hatred right now, and we're really kind of getting to see how she handles situations and what she does, which I personally like because it's another unique perspective. The only thing I know about her as a character, aside from like what this is talked about being like, she was the right hand of the Emperor,
hmm
worked really closely with him. Other than that, it's yeah. I want to see more of her development, I guess, is the best way I can put that.
that's fair, and I think you'll get that, and especially in the last book that we read. The Last Command has a lot of development for Mara Jade.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, ooh, we didn't talk about the Nogiri, and all that with Leia, which is pretty big stuff. Um, like I like the fact that these creatures are very much they're loyal creatures, not to the Empire, but to the family line of those who saved them. You know,
Yeah.
so you got by the sense of smell, they know that she's the daughter of Darth Vader, and they want nothing more than to serve her, which is fascinating because like, and it's also kind of a point that's confused me a lot. Like they are loyal to the Empire. They think Darth Vader saved them because the Empire, you know, repelled the forces off their planet. But then at the same time, their planet is dying because of the Empire. So it's like, what? I guess propaganda does its best.
That's a good point. There's a very interesting, like, kind of duality there because even I think Leia at one point in time mentions it where she's just like, is this a price worth it? Like, you're losing your children, you're losing all of these people, and they were like, well, yes, but this is also what saved us. So what's the issue?
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
they just didn't understand her point, which, like, that's kind of fascinating. Because I really expected Vader to, when they talked about that backstory with Vader, I really expected him to have, put the, iron fist down, and that's why they're so loyal and so obedient. But no, oh, my drone's working for some mysterious reason now. All I had to do was die. Um, like, he did kind of do that, but then according to them, he, like, taught them all of these different things and, like, helped
Well,
them
he
with all of these
also,
different things.
healed a certain part of their planet so they could grow crops, and you know, I think it was almost, I don't want to say like a um human side of Darth Vader, but like, because he did it for a reason, but it almost was kind of a human side
I look at
in
it in
my
two
eyes.
different ways. I get what you're saying. So to to stem off the human aspect that you're talking about here, um, current Star Wars, we show the humanization of Anakin Skywalker. We see his light side, his dark side, and we clearly know that Anakin does not have all darkness in him. He is very much both light and dark. However, at the time
Hmm.
of writing this book, you don't have all this extra media. You might have one other book, two other books, and you have the movies. So, how do we emphasize that Anakin wasn't all dark? That Luke was right to say there was light in him. He knows there's light in him. Well, you have this race of aliens that the Empire has indebted into their service. Well, at the same time, Vader is not completely letting them go without food. He's not making sure that they are completely dependent on him, but in a way he is. So it's like he's giving them food, he's helping a portion of their planet so their civilization can thrive. Devil's advocate is they are now dependent on him and they need him. And if they can't do anything without Vader and the
Yeah.
Empire. But one can make the argument he didn't have to do that at all. He could have threw them in prison camps.
Yeah, but he also saw a reason to keep them around.
Right.
You know, like they're so yeah, he could have done that, but I think all those aspects into one are really a for sure way of aiming for what you were talking about, you know, trying to bring in that he's not complete evil
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah. And that's the best part about reading and things like that is like you can interpret things the way you want to. The author might say, "Hey, like no, this is what I meant." But when you're reading, when you're looking at the page and absorbing that information, how you interpret things is how you bring in the book and your experience with the book. Like, I could see this in a pessimist sort of way, and then I'm like, I hate this. This is depressing, you know?
Yeah,
But not seeing it that way really gives me an attitude towards this where I'm like, I'm happy to read this some more, you know?
right.
I like that point you made about the media not existing at the time, because so often do we look at these things from like a modern perspective with looking at with how these characters are analyzed. And it really is, you make a great point, because it really is interesting to think about it, of like, this had to explain it to you. It had to show you his human side. It had to show you that he still did those things and that there was still like goodness in him that Luke was just intrinsically able to see, because nobody else knew it was there. So yeah, that's a fantastic point I didn't even consider.
Thank you.
Well, and especially because the rest of the media that we did have at that time with the video games and the comics all just showed the brutality of Darth Vader.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
well,
like
that kind of
there
stuff
wasn't.
sells.
What's that?
That kind of stuff sells, you know what I mean? I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to
Oh
cut you
yeah.
off.
I mean, from since when I was a kid, back to like my favorite first person shooter, Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight, like anytime you ran into Darth Vader, it was a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like they sold that he's such a hard ass and there's no humanity left in him. But like once you get into the novels and stuff like that, it really does do a good job of showing the split between Anakin and Vader.
Which, this conversation is super relevant. based on Ahsoka. If you guys haven't watched it,
I haven't watched it yet, so please don't say anything.
I won't say anything. Shit.
Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to it yet today.
Yeah, that's. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You'll have to let me know when you do watch it, because it's great.
Yes, I definitely will.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like, I don't mean that, like, and when I'm like saying I don't like this, I'm not saying I don't like this story. Sorry,
Oh
I
no, the
don't like
story's
the.
fantastic. The graphic novel kind of sucks.
Yeah, I just don't like the medium, the way that they're portraying the story to me. It feels rushed, and because like when you read the actual novel, you get the all the descriptions that Zahn uses, all the things. Um, it just everything feels more natural. Where like things feel rushed in this. Like at one point in this one, the example that sticks in my head is like Han's following one of the alien, and Lando Calrissian is going to go find Luke, and they're going to go meet up together and meet up with Han. Well, Luke's. This is when Luke is like splitting up that argument. He's like, "You have to pay for this. This is fair. This is that." You know. At the very end of it, Lando comes in. He's like, "Han's waiting for us. Let's go." And then they're like, "Oh, zip!" And they like run off. And in the novel, it's much more organic than that. It's not
Yeah.
just this happens. Lando's here. They're gone. There's a whole like transition and things happen, and it just
Yeah, Shane, I hate to say it, but if I were you, I would definitely read this trilogy like as the novels.
Okay.
Um, it really does not do the books justice, and it's really a shame because I really had high hopes for this. Um, but I think Ian's right. You know, like as far as the the book
it's
itself, it just doesn't get into the depth that the book
yeah.
does, the comic doesn't. You know, it's just like there's not enough of the information there.
Yeah, it just it doesn't. This doesn't feel organic compared to the book. Like this feels very choppy at times, um,
Hmm.
and I think you expressed confusion. Am I right? Earlier
A little bit,
today.
yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have that with the book. It's very good at
No,
doing what it does. I mean, the Heir to the Empire and the Last Command, I couldn't put down. This one was a little harder for me to get through because there's so much information, and it's very much like Empire in the fact that things are a bit more political, and um, there's a lot of dense information to get through. So like, I thought Dark Force Rises like mirrored Empire Strikes Back very well. And that's oddly enough, Empire is probably my favorite Star Wars movie. So
I did one of the things I did find kind of interesting, and I hope it touches more on that did pull me in a little bit was then they were looking for the lost dreadnought ships, and they had talked about that there was some sort of like hive mind or some sort of like virus that took over, and that's why
this
everybody just kind of like disappeared or whatnot.
right, it was ran on slave circuitry, and then there was like a virus. Now, this is I don't know if either of you can answer this question. I don't quite understand what slave circuitry is.
it's basically, well, in the Star Wars universe, it's what it does is it links the ships together. So like if they have the slave circuitry set up, they can like when the fleet jumps into hyperdrive. Okay, they use slave circuitry to have the whole fleet jump instead of everybody having their own nav computer setting out the information. They use that slave system to just jump the entire fleet.
So essentially, the whole fleet is ran on one computer.
Yes, and that's
Okay.
why all of those dreadnought ships jumped at once and were lost to space.
Oh, because that virus infected the whole
Mm.
thing all at the same
Yes.
time. Okay, okay, now that makes a lot more sense. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Does that clear up what you're asking, Shane?
Yeah, it does. Because like yeah, that kind of thing makes me, it kind of piqued my interest because I was like, oh, why, is there a reason why they're just kind of drifting? Are they all dead now? Like,
Uh-huh.
what's kind of going on? So no, that does explain it a little bit. I was intrigued, but that clarifies it a lot. So thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, I think we'll learn more as we go.
Definitely. Um, yeah, like I said, I'm really disappointed in the graphic novel as far as what it is. It really doesn't do it justice, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, we're still getting a cool story.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's- it- no, I don't know. And I think we did mention the art is a plus plus. I'm happier with the art in this than I was before.
Yeah, the first one was really bad in my opinion,
Oh yeah.
as far
Um,
as the art. This one, it's a little bit better. It's still not great in my opinion.
no, well, at least Luke's lightsaber is green now.
Yeah, imagine that's funny how he just like switched from blue to green in this one, huh?
Yeah, just magically.
Well, I mean, he is a space wizard, so
Yeah, this is
I
fair.
guess he could do that if he wants.
Fuck. All right, well, I mean, I don't have much else. I mean, I feel like I've expressed my loves and feels and hates for this book, so
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, same actually. I think we covered it pretty well.
cool. All right, well, we're gonna continue with Dark Force Rising next week. Fingers crossed, guys. Hopefully, Jazzy can join us next week. I believe he is
Hopefully.
still reading along as we're going. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, so we'll finish Dark Force Rising with issues 4, 5, and 6 next week, and then we'll
Hmm.
move on to the Last Command. All right, well, thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Please interact, comment, subscribe, ring bells, do whatever, do the hell you want. Um, thanks again. I'm Ian.
I'm Al.
And I'm Shane.
Good night, everybody.
Night, y'all.
Good night.